Hello, my creative friends. My name is Shannon with Black Sheep House. Today's video, I'm going to be sharing every single bit of information that you'll need to create and sell organic modern art. This is a labor of love creating this video for me because I just wanted to share all this stuff for someone who is creative but not really sure what to do and how to start. So I have a local Hobby Lobby that has 50% off sales on canvas, so I can get a nice size canvas at a pretty good price. I realize that you guys are all over the world and may not have that option, but you'll want to get a good deal on your canvas, and it needs to be large, okay? I've tried this with smaller artworks as well, and I find that they do not sell. They just sit around until eventually I have to mark them way down in price. So go big or go home as far as organic modern goes. This is a 36 by 36 gallery wrapped canvas. I'm using a product called Acryl Pro. I'm not sure if you guys have that locally, but it is a tile adhesive and it is very durable. It will not come off the canvas. It's way more durable than joint compound, although joint compound is less expensive, and I do use joint compound on some paintings over top of Acryl Pro, but Acryl Pro is always going to be my base for creating texture, and it's about $17 a gallon at my local hardware store, so it's a lot more affordable than just piling on paint. I've done paintings like this that have a lot of texture and some that don't, and I found that the more texture I have, the faster it sells and the more money I can ask for the painting. So make sure and don't be skimping with the texture. You can really just layer it on there. This stuff, like I said, is very inexpensive, so you can really afford to just go crazy. It's not like we're using really nice oil paints. The first goal is just to get the product on there, and then we're going to go in and add the texture. So I'm applying this, I guess, about the thickness of maybe a dime. That's about how thick I'm applying this. But I've done some where it's even thicker than that. I just knew I wanted to get this video all done in one day. And so if I apply it on there too thickly, it does take at least a full day to dry in the sun, if not more. That's another thing to mention. I don't know the safety stuff on this product. So like I was talking to my sister-in-law about doing some paintings, and she's actually pregnant, and she looked into some of the warnings on the label, and it's not really good for pregnant people. So, I'm not touching the product with my hands. I'm using a spatula to apply it. But if you are immunocompromised or pregnant or anything like that, please, please, please be wearing a mask and wear gloves, and or choose a different texturizing product that is safer. Now we're going to go in and do some texture, and I'll just drag this along. I'll kind of bounce it to create a little texture. There's really no pressure at this point with my hand. I'm just holding it to where it kind of stays on the surface, but I'm not applying any pressure. I'm just dragging, and it creates this little texture, or you can kind of tap. Most of my movements are going to be vertical or horizontal. You're not going to see a lot of angular movements, but I do them sometimes. Most of them, though, are going to be vertical or horizontal. once you have the texture on there the way that you like, you are going to let it dry in a well-ventilated area. I like to place mine on a table out in the sun, and that works well for me because I tend to put texture on all four sides of the canvas. And so putting it on this table, I have a tarp laying over top of it, works great. Now that it's dry, we can get started on the actual painting part. I'm just using these cheap apple barrel paints that I find at Walmart. The little ones are like 50 cents a piece. And I am using the color Antique Parchment, Beachcomber Beige, and just plain black. I also use a little bit of a metallic brown later on in the video. That's by Modern Masters, and you'll have to find that at a craft store or online. So I just wanted to show you guys like what the colors looked like up close. And you could apply it with a paintbrush if you'd like, but I find that the paintbrush just doesn't give me the look that the modern look that I'm going for. So I find that just squirting the paint on the canvas from the bottle, just all haphazard, the more random the better, works the best. And then I use the big putty knife again to drag it across. Now there's a lot of paint, and so you'll need a drop cloth of some sort or something like a plastic bag or something to catch all the paint that comes off the edge when you drag it from one end to the other. I hope that I'm explaining this well enough. So basically you squirt all the paint on there, a bunch of drips and drops, and then you're going to use the putty knife to drag from, and I'm doing this horizontally, so you're looking at the painting the way that it's going to be hanging. So it looks like a black line across the center there once you drag it. And so I'm doing the Antique Parchment on top, right where I'm working, this section that I'm working on right now. I did the black near the, like a little bit above the center line. And then the whole bottom portion is Beachcomber Beige. So it's the white on top, the black stripe right in the, upper middle part, and then the Beachcomber Beige. At this point, once I drag it all across, I will just throw in some other colors if I feel like it's too dark. I'm just going for like layers and layers and layers. And the more layers you can add, the better. It's going to look more interesting. And you just want to let this painting, in some ways, let this painting create itself. So just applying it. I do use some of the Antique Parchment too as well on the bottom just for texture. And then like you can see on the top, I have some black and some Beachcomber Beige. But the majority of it is going to be that color that I was talking about, where it's white on top, the black, and then the beige. So I'm just dragging it. You waste a lot of paint, I won't lie. I try to save as much as I can, and like you see me kind of scraping it up and trying to reuse it, but it just sort of, this creation process, the way it works is it's a lot of wasted paint. However, the paint is very inexpensive, and so I don't feel so bad about that. I'm applying a lot of pressure as I pull the putty knife across, and then I'm just trying to fill in some of those white spots. The natural texture of the painting that you already had from your Acryl Pro will just add to this. When you pull the putty knife across, it'll scrape off the top, and you can't see it from this far away, but there's already going to be quite a bit of texture going on. I do paint the sides of my canvases, but you could leave them blank if you were going to frame it. And I'm going to do a video on how to do a floating frame very soon, because I think that that's a valuable tool as well. If you're going to be selling art and being able to frame it, you can charge even more. I didn't let this dry or anything. This paint is still wet. I just threw it up so that you could see a little bit better what I was doing. I was losing some of my, well, I was gaining too much sunlight on the floor. So I'm using a like artist palette knife now that I'm just kind of like going in and adding a little bit of color here and there. There's really no rhyme or reason. I'm just sort of just layering and trying to create more interest and depth. It's already looking pretty good, and honestly, you could probably leave it there if you're just trying to hurry up and sell some of these. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on it and, really get something unique. I use anything I can find that can scrape paint off, whatever. You see me wiping it on my hand. You should use a paper towel or like a washcloth or something. I've actually found that those little bread pans from the dollar store works really well too for scraping paint in. And for scraping, when I do the big drag on the canvas, sometimes I'll have one of those bread pans below, and all the excess paint will just go in there and I can reuse it a lot better. So to add variety and interest, I'm using my hands a little bit. I'm using the paintbrush a little bit. And you can come up with an infinite ways of making textures and looks and just, play around and don't be afraid to try something. Then you can use this is just my like furniture painting brush. I'm just going over with sort of like a dry brushing effect and dabbing. I'll dry brush pretty much the entire painting with the antique parchment, the whitish color, and that highlights a lot of the peaks so that you get a lot of variety and interest. The more the merrier as far as layers and variety and interest. And I'm kind of an overdoer type of person where I just like don't ever know when to stop, and that for some reason works really well with this type of painting style because you're going for layers and texture and interest and depth, and that is how you create that, by just going over it and letting it dry a little bit and then going over it again with something else in a different way and just continuing to build on your whole design. So yeah, you can see where I dry brushed it over top and it just highlights some of the peaks. I'm going for a very like aged, antique looking, organic, worldly look. So I don't know. The painting looked great. You could stop right here, and if you seeing me pour this paint is stressing you out, like holy crap, I already just did this big painting, I don't want to add any more, you could certainly just not do any of this next portion, okay? You can just skip ahead to how to photograph the painting, and I'll be giving all the details on how to sell it and stuff. But if you are wanting to add a little bit more to your painting, then yes, stick along with me here. So I'm going to be using this Modern Masters antique bronze. It's got a little bit of a shimmer to it. You could use something like a gold would be really cool. But I find that this color just works for me on so many different projects. And I'm just using a cheap little sponge from the dollar store, and I ripped it in half. I always dab it on fabric first before I go on to the painting so it's not too thick. And I'm basically making like a little bit of a prairie bush or a desert bush over here in the corner with the sponge. So it's white on one side and bronze on the other, and then those two just kind of like mix together and create the highs and lows of the bushes over here. So dab, 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 dab. I just did them on the bottom right hand side of the painting. And then I go in with just the white, the antique parchment color, and kind of do like all over top just to keep everything nice and light and give it that like aged look. So it doesn't look like a fresh painting. I kind of want it to look like a painting that's been sitting in the sun or sitting outside for centuries. You can also just do this dabbing technique with the antique parchment on other areas too, and you'll see me do that probably in this video as well. I'm going to use this knife. This is an actual like painting knife you'll need to find at the actual craft store. Did a little bit of white. Again, I'm just going for texture and variety. I'm not really thinking every movement through. But in general, like I mentioned earlier, my movements, especially with using the putty knife or the painter's knife, are going to be horizontal movements, or they're going to be vertical movements. The majority of this painting are horizontal movements. So from, right to left or from left to right on the painting. I decided to go in with the bronze because it's got a little bit of shimmer and add some depth to the like middle portion of this painting. I'm actually doing this painting for someone in particular, and I know that they have some gold items in their house, and so I just wanted to give like a little bit of slight shimmer to help tie in the metal in their room. A lot of people are using bronze and gold in the organic modern decor style, and so that will obviously help sell your painting if it goes well with people's decor. And speaking of selling, I did want to mention that the best way to sell these paintings is to be very, very honest. In your description, say, I am a student and the body of work that inspired this art was so-and-so's piece. So you can list the original artist that inspired your work and tell them the truth. Tell them that you're a student building up your portfolio. You don't have to tell them what products you used. Most people will want you to sign the work, and because they think maybe you're going to be famous someday or something. But I have found that people are so kind and supportive that you are pursuing your dream of becoming an artist, and people are so kind. The other thing too with getting on Instagram and stuff is just making sure that you tell people who you're inspired by, and also that you're not exactly copying someone else's painting like piece for piece. The other thing I want to mention is that your photographs are really going to be what sells your painting. And so I don't have access to like a cool modern house. I live in a traditional style house and we don't own, so we can't really make any of those structural changes and stuff like that. So what I do is actually go out to the driveway and take pictures, and I'm going to show you how to do that next. And then as far as pricing your paintings, you'll want to price a large painting like this, 36 by 36, at least, $175 or more. You can charge up to $300, depending on your market, $350, and some people will get even more. So there you go. I've got my little votives that make the vase look like it's further away from the wall, we'll call it, quote unquote wall. And then I have this big piece of wood that I'm just using as my base. Once I get my pictures edited, I'm going to post them up on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm going to use words like neutral, textured painting, organic modern, Scandinavian, boho. I'm going to use like keywords like that, and you can use tags in your Facebook listing. I'll list it for anywhere from like $175 to $275. Here's how I'm taking the picture from the side. You can see I just put it on the ground and turned it all sideways, and I'm holding it up with my body. And yeah, that's how you make photograph and sell art online. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.